Alright guys, so since this came up today, I just want to make a real quick video on it. Austin brought up options, and I know it wasn't like anything serious, but it's a good thing to talk about. So since we're looking at Bitcoin right now and it's doing its thing, let me just show you guys the difference here. So if we were to take options on this, I want to show you like an in the money option, how it would perform, versus an out of the money option, how it would perform, right? So in the money means anything below the current share price. In the case of calls or in puts, it would be anything above the current share price would be considered in the money because you're shorting it with puts and you're going long with calls. So in the money, in this case, the first in the money option would be a 69, right? And then the first out of the money would be a 70. The further you go out of the money, the cheaper they get. The further in the money you go, the more expensive they get. Now, the reason for this is they have something called a delta on it, and the delta is the probability that that option is going to be in the money at expiration, which basically tells you the higher the delta, the lower your risk, which basically you're paying for less risk the further down you get, right? All of these will perform well, and all of them will go up when the stock is going up. However, there is a fact like delta increases as the option gets in the money, right? So like let's say we think that IBIT's going to move to 85, so we play a 75. So we're out of the money, but not all the way to where we want to go, right? And this is something that something that I would do, something like this. So we can look at this and we can simulate it, right? And we can see. So we said 75 is where it's at, right? So pay attention here because this is important. So let's say we get to 75. 75. Okay. So as you can see, literally if we went all the way to 75 by tomorrow, which is a big move for Bitcoin, we still only do 100% on those because they just then are becoming in the money. But now watch what happens when we go past that, right? It starts to exponentially go. So we go one more dollar. We got another 25%. So for the first $10 move, we got 100%, but then $1 after that, we got 25% for $1. So we go another dollar after that, 77, right? 150. So it's only going to take to 79, roughly. Not even, right around 79 to do 200%. There you go, 78. So the first $10 we only got 100% gain for, but after that, a $3 move resulted in another 100%. And the reason for that is as the option gets in the money, the delta goes up, and the delta is the amount the contract will change per $1 move in the stock price. So if we look at this IBIT call, you can see here there's a delta of 0.35. So that means that if we were to go from the current price, which is 69.84, to 79.84, we could expect this options price to increase by $35 in that $1 move. But you'll notice if we go back here, right, and we go to trade options, and we will go to the September 30s again. And if we look at an in the money with, like, let's say a 0.7 delta, because that's what I usually like to target. All right, so this one, right? If we look at this one and we simulate this the same way, now notice it's more expensive, right? Obviously. But watch what happens. Same scenario, we go to $75 first. So we only got a 56% move, but look how much more money that is, right? So like the other option was $2.30, and we were taking on more risk. And even though we got 100% return for that move, it was only a $230 gain for a lot more risk. Versus this way, yeah, the percentage is less. It's still 56% though, but you're getting way more of a return. So like you're paying for less risk and higher probability, right? So you'll be less prone to drawdown. Now, we'll run it all the way to the 78 number where we did before. 78. I think we did like 78 and 90 or something like that. 78, 80, it was somewhere around here. Okay. So now we're at 100%, but we got $746 return. Now we go back to our other scenario with the out of the money option. In this case, we were at a 200% return here on $230, which would be a $400 gain, right? So basically, the deeper that out of the money goes into the money from here, it's going to outperform this one. So that's why out of the money's, like if you expect Bitcoin to go to IBIT here to go to 90, it would be better to buy a out of the money call than an in the money call, assuming you expect that move to happen and happen rather quickly, because you'll get that exponential effect that happens. Again, you have more risk though, because you have a lower probability of it happening. However, with crypto, the moves are very predictable and measurable. So with crypto, it's kind of easy to get away with it. So hopefully this is making sense. But basically, usually you want to do at the money or in the money calls, typically, if you're trying to catch a trend. If you're trying to catch an explosive move, usually you want to do slightly out of the money calls. If you're trying to catch a parabolic move, like a huge move, then way out of the money calls can be really good, because like Austin said earlier, they're really cheap, right? And you can get multiple 1,000% return. So if you pick up contracts, like I did this with Kohl's, right? You pick up contracts that are 16 cents, 50 cents. So $16, $50 a piece, right? You pick up like, let's say they're $50 a piece, and you pick up 100 of them, right? So that's $5,000. That's a super risky trade, right? But if you're pretty certain that that move's going to happen and you can see it in your analysis, or you know about some news that's coming or whatever, right? Then your $5,000 goes, thousands of percents in that scenario, and you make 50 grand, right? Versus if you spent $5,000 on in the money calls, you still would have got a really good return. Here we can see right now. So we said $90, right? So, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, but I'm trying to give you guys an idea. So the in the money call, if we bought 5 of these, how much were these things again? Well, they go up to 25 a piece here, and I think they were 7 something now. So what is that? Yeah. I don't remember what they were. They're 7.25 a piece. So that's a good return. But again, if you spent $5,000 on these, that would be roughly 6 or 7 of these, give or take. And what we say, $1,800 there. So 6 or 7 times 1,800. Just call it 2 for easy math. So you'd have made 12 to 14,000. These are outlandish numbers, I understand that, but you get the point, right? So in that case, the out of the money would have way outperformed the in the money call, because it became in the money and then started to grow and expand like in the money calls do. So basically, it's almost never a good idea to do out of the money, to be completely honest, unless you know something big is coming, which I gave you guys the IBIT 85 calls the other day, which were way out of the money, okay? But that's because when Bitcoin makes its legs up, it typically does a 30% move in like a couple of weeks, right? I'm expecting Bitcoin to end this cycle somewhere around $160,000. I don't know. I don't know where it's going to go. But if it continues to do what it's done historically, and if you chart it and you measure the move of the legs, it's usually 30% rises every time it gets its next leg. Well, 30% takes us to 154, and those 85 calls would be $5 in the money at that point, because $90 on IBIT would be equivalent to about $150,000 on Bitcoin. So those options that you got really cheap allowed you to, yes, they're risky, but also get into a trade with high profitable potential for not a lot of money, because the contracts, like Austin said, were 30 cents, which is $30. So you could have loaded 10 of those for $300, and if the move happens, you do a 1,700% on $300, which is a lot of fucking money for not a lot of risk, right? So sometimes they make sense. Most of the time they don't. You should never buy a call just because it's cheap. Make sure you understand what the options are doing, okay? So they all have these Greeks on them. So you got delta, gamma, theta, and vega. The only two that really matter most of the time are your delta and your theta. Your delta is your probability of being in the money at expiration, and it's also how much the contract will be repriced per $1 move in the underlying. So if the stock is $50 and goes to 51 and you have a delta of 0.7, you'd expect a $70 raise in that contract from that $1 move. Inversely, if it's $51 and it moves down to 50, you'd expect a $70 reduction in that contract. Okay, so that's what delta is. And then theta is the amount the price burns per day, right? So this contract's losing 4 cents every day, $4 every day. No matter what, as time goes on, it loses $4 a day, every day. And that's because this is a shorter term one, but you get what I'm saying. So theta is your decay over time. And that's why options are so risky, is because you're literally trying to time the market. So the closer you get to expiration, the higher that theta goes, and the more those options get absolutely destroyed. So theoretically, when you're flipping options, you want to be out of them long before they expire. So that's another thing. However, the exception to that is when you're selling options, theta works against you, because when you're selling options, you actually want the options to get cheaper. Because if they get cheaper, you can then buy back that option for a profit. So if you sell an option for $100 and then the price goes down 50%, you can then buy back that option and you make $50, right? Or you can let it expire and you get to keep the whole 100. I've made plenty of videos on selling options, but yeah, so just a quick spiel on options. You guys have been asking for it. I can make a more detailed video and give some real world scenarios later, but this is just a quick one while I was thinking about it. And yeah, hope you guys have a good day. See ya.